Pre-pandemic, in our nation, 2 out of 3 children experienced a traumatic event by 16 years of age. During the pandemic, we know that households with children are living through even significantly greater hardships. Nearly 120,000 children have experienced the death of a primary caregiver due to COVID-19. Tragically, that continues to rise. Imagine Michigan's big house at capacity, and every seat is filled with one of these grieving children. Poverty increased to 1 in 5 children, especially among those who are Black and brown. Picture a typical classroom with 5 desks in every row, and a student in each row is facing food and housing insecurity. Moreover, estimates indicate that for 3 million of our most vulnerable children, those with disabilities, in foster care, English language learners, did not attend school at all during the shutdown. For far too many of our children, the pandemic is contributing to even greater trauma and grief exposures. So how can we respond? Recently, I was struck by an Indianapolis principal's compassionate actions. A Black male student was sent to Principal Smith's office for wearing a hat, a violation of the dress code. Sounds like an open and shut case. A student violates the code of conduct, so swift disciplinary action is the consequence, right?
The principal struck a deal with the student, which meant making a trip on the icy roads to keep up his end of the bargain.
You can easily say this photo is not only worth 1,000 words, but also thousands of views after going viral. You see the black beanie on the counter. An 8th grader refused to take it off and ended up in the principal's office.
His barber messed his hairline up. Me and Miss Rivers thought that his hairline looked fine, but he was pretty adamant about not taking the hat off.
Dr. Jason Smith is principal at Stony Brook Intermediate Middle School. Instead of penalizing the 8th grader, he struck a deal with the student.
I said, hey, if I line you up, if I fix your line, will you take the hat off and go to class? And he said yes.
So Principal Smith left school despite the snowy roads to get his hair clippers at home.
Coming back to school, I almost got stuck out in the front of my house, because the side streets haven't been cleared.
During the haircut, a school police officer snapped photos and asked permission to post them. Within hours, the post went viral. And more importantly, the principal and student now talk about his future.
I try to bring up, possible careers and things like that to try to get them to think about the future and to dream and set goals.
Principal Smith is an Arlington High School alumnus. Retired principal Dr. Jackie Greenwood pushed him. So now
we work really hard at building relationships and making connections with kids and doing whatever it takes for them to be successful.
And Principal Smith told me since the haircut, the 8th grader is already doing better in school.
As depicted in the video, Principal Smith's approach maps onto the 6 compassionate action steps to promote resilience. First, he noticed the student's signs of distress. Second, he self-checked, as Principal Smith's initial thought was that the student's haircut looked fine. Third, he sought understanding by talking with the student. He heard the student's unhappiness about his hairline and viewed his pride in his appearance as a strength. Fourth, he empathized and connected with the student around the cultural significance of an even hairline. Fifth, he collaborated with the student, recognizing that the most helpful action would be to solve the problem. Lastly, Principal Smith took action, the 6th and final step. Driving to his home despite the inclement weather to retrieve his clippers so he could line the student up. The student returned to class, stress-free and more resilient. So how about we respond to our children with compassionate actions, promoting a culture of resilience? As a clinical psychologist who specializes in child trauma and grief, I know that kids desire to be seen and heard. Doing so compassionately results in healthy outcomes for kids, mentally and physically. So for children who you encounter, even if you do not know their trauma history, notice, self-check, understand, empathize, collaborate, and compassionately act. In doing so, you're sending the message that I see you, I hear you, and I can help. Will you join me? Our collective compassionate actions are urgently needed now more than ever.